How do you feel about your last year? How do you feel about how you've done if you're the kind of person who makes things? Do you feel that what you've made is enough? Hey friend, Levi here. Do you have a quick minute to have a chat? Don't worry if you look down at the length of this video and go, oh dear, I'm not ready to buckle up for a video of that length. I don't think I am either, so I'll get to the point and the message of it, I think, pretty quickly. It's not some big crazy secret or anything that's like life-changingly radical, but alongside it is some concepts that I've been thinking about and wrestling with as someone who likes making stuff and making videos and things like that. And it's been challenging to get some of the things I've been working on onto the channel quick enough, so I feel this disconnect with you, the viewers of my videos, and where I'm actually at in real life. And if you've been around here for any length of time, you know that I like reflecting on how I'm doing just as a person in these videos, because it's important for me to keep it real. The secret that I've never talked about in my videos before, or really like addressed, is that I find it very difficult to talk to the camera, and not in the ways that you might expect, where I get like insecure about the words being said or anything. Like, it's not one of those like, hey, I got over the fear of like seeing myself on camera long ago, so I'm kind of over that. The struggle with me on camera lately is that so many things that I enjoy talking about take length to talk about them. And in a video, I really want to respect people's time and make it go by quickly and not have it drag on. And so for me, a challenge that I've always had is I feel like I need to record me saying things multiple times to get it condensed and get it quick. And there's a cadence that I like, a rhythm to the videos that I try to hit. And maybe some of you are thinking, well, you drone on in your videos anyway, so what do you mean? What are you talking about? Trying to make it brief and quick. I invite you to have a coffee with me. I have some things that are important to me that I want to talk about. And if you're a viewer of my channel that is interested in things that I feel are important for the channel, this might be an interesting video for you. I'm going to have coffee. I may put some footage overlay of a couple sections, but I'm going to try to just free flow here and not abrupt myself. So how do you feel about your last year? How do you feel about how you've done if you're the kind of person who makes things? Do you feel that what you've made is enough? Maybe I have to be, I can feel, I'm a person who feels things pretty intensely at different times, and I can feel myself getting close to heart issues for me. So like I already feel emotion welling up for no specific reason. It's not that I'm sad. It's not that I feel a pain of any kind specifically at this point. Maybe a therapist would help me draw it out. But I feel emotion well up when I talk about these topics of, are you doing enough? And certainly that is the great question that I face in my life as someone who has a high standard of the things that I would like to do. And I would often answer that as no, I'm not doing enough. And that is hard to acknowledge, because if you live in that headspace, it's hard to live at peace. When there's always one more thing to do, when you're always one step behind, when you're living in that world, it's not a matter of being grateful for what you have, but it's also just being the kind of person that is hard to be okay with who they are in a moment, where the version of yourself that you're always trying to move towards is just slightly out of reach. The version of yourself that has more discipline, the version of yourself that is more loving, that is more gracious, that is a better friend, when that version is never who you are being at that time as being enough, that is quite a weight to carry that subconsciously I often slip into. And I'm reflecting on how around Thanksgiving last year, I guess maybe 6-8 months ago, last fall, maybe it's longer than that already, I made a video that was probably my last big one on the topic of how I'm doing. And I appreciated putting that video together because it's so refreshing to feel that there's something I've made that accurately is kind of like a little mini time capsule of how I'm feeling at that time. And I think sometimes videos like that for me are misunderstood, where if I'm at a place where I'm ready to be open about it on the channel, yes, it can be vulnerable, but I'm not always like looking for the channel to be the answer to what I'm currently processing. And that can sometimes be a little bit of an awkward dance to do, because as you share things that are personal to you on the channel, especially if they're hard things, people can sometimes feel if they're watching that they need to, that they're concerned for me and that they're nervous about the headspace that I'm going into making those things. That's a line that I'm willing to try dance, because I think it's important to not always make things where things are going really well. I'm already deep into this and I'm okay with this pacing, but I want to reflect on, am I doing enough? I don't have a hard time acknowledging that 2020, last year, was maybe one of the harder years of my life ever so far. And when I say something like that, there's always this guilt that comes in pretty quickly, and this shame of like, well, how dare you have a hard year? So many people lost their lives to a mental health struggle last year and this year. So many people lost loved ones. So many people lost homes to fires. So many people circumstantially are experiencing more suffering than I've ever experienced. So how dare me reflect on not having a great year, but I need to be okay with actually stating how it was, and that was last year was one of the harder years of my life, which I felt such this great contradiction, because I also, beside that, experienced some of the greatest gifts in my life, which is becoming a father. And in a lot of ways, becoming a father last year, I think, oh geez, I was so excited to sit down and have coffee. I didn't think I was gonna actually get emotional, but like when we circle around the things of the heart, yeah, I can't help but get there. I think in a lot of ways, becoming a father last year helped save, I don't want to say save me, but certainly kept me around without fully detaching, dissociating, spiraling down into a cycle of some sort of abuse of some kind, to process and regulate what it is that I'm experiencing. I'm a little nervous that I don't have autofocus on. Oh, I do. Okay, good. I just had that moment where I was filming where I didn't think I had autofocus on, and that was going to be terrifying. And some things that I processed at length, I started a podcast with my friend Jesse, and we only recorded a few episodes so far, but those conversations are things that I have with other creator friends, people that I feel are on my inner circle, about just processing life. And it's hard for me to process how much I beat up myself in order to do things that I want to do. And I'm not quite ready to give up how hard I am on myself, because I also acknowledge how hard I am on myself helps me complete things that I think are then good. And some of those things that are good that are coming up, I am excited to fill you in on the big things that are happening just for my work and videos coming on this channel, because there's so much exciting stuff. But in the realm of a year like last year, I certainly acknowledged as I came to the end of the year that one of the big reasons why last year was so hard is because I came into the year with expectations that, in the light of even just like basic normal life events like family members passing away, became pretty difficult to follow through on quickly. And I've always thought of myself as someone who just muscles through anyways, who meets the deadline of needing to move out of their basement suite so that way they can drive to Alaska, who finishes their first documentary on a deadline because I'm the kind of person who finishes things that I care about and say that I will do. We're not going to reference all the things that I haven't finished, that I haven't said I will do yet. But to me, if I say I'm going to do something to myself, that's very important to me. And it's almost as if like a part of my identity is like being rifted when I don't follow through on what I thought I would do. And it's fair to say, in last year, 2020, there's things I thought I would do that I did not do. And as we went into the fall, as I'm processing this with Jesse and a couple different podcasts that we did, I was realizing that my normal end of the year self-loathing that I experience was more than normal. And that as a result, like especially after we drove across Canada last year, and I was like, there were some really good things that happened last year, driving with my kiddos, spending time with my wife. Those were all dreams of mine, and I don't take away from those at all. But alongside that is like these inner conversations about who I am and what am I doing with my life and what are the things that I'm making and am I on track to do that well into the future. And going into October and November, I certainly felt that I had not been. I certainly felt that I had not been in a pretty big way. And that was a lot to process for me. That was a lot. That was heavy. And I'm going to transition out of the heavy stuff to acknowledge then how I could slip back into heavy stuff. So coming into the start of 2021, acknowledging that I felt all this guilt and remorse that the year did not go the way that I thought I should be able to muscle it to go. I accepted the reality of my output and my performance and my participation as a friend in the lives of those around me. And I kind of accepted those things and moved into 2021 and tried to have a clean slate, because normally at the end of any given year, I always feel there's this process where I almost have to lament the things that I did not do that year, because I think very much in seasons of year after year, at least at this stage of my life, I do. And so the fall can typically be a challenging time for me, as I no longer am outside as much, as the gray rain settles over British Columbia. I spend time at home more. Usually I'm editing, I'm behind a computer. I've stopped doing some of the routines that are healthy for me. And I just have to accept, all those things that you wanted to get done this year, you didn't do them. And every year I process that differently. And last year I processed it the worst, and it was the hardest. And thankfully, through relationship and through counseling and through having a purpose, like being a father who is alive and there for his kid and the kid yet to come, that certainly is what kept me there. I tremble at the thought of where things would go without the support structures of life, and it makes me remorse so heavily for those that lose the good fight. That is maybe I should have trigger warning in this video. Maybe I should have done that. Apologies if this is pulling up stuff for you that I didn't intend to. So coming into 2021, I made that video about productivity this year and how I was working as an adult to separate the things I make from who I am, and how I'm annoyed that continues to be a problem for me. I don't want to have my well-being tied to how productive I am. And yet how productive I am also means that I'm building things that I'm proud of. And so it's this weird thing where I feel proud of myself when I do things, and it's hard when I don't do the things that are then worthy of being proud of, if that makes sense. And coming into 2021, I really wanted to focus less on the human doing and more on human being. And it's at this point in the year, September, where I'm catching myself so excited to wake up. I'm so thrilled to just see my kids, to see my wife. It's so many gifts. I love change, and I love going on little trips and doing trips at length, and adapting to being in place for longer has forced me to be at peace for longer. And being at peace for longer has helped me learn how to be at peace better. And it was a fight this year to get there, and it was not easy, but getting back to a place as a full adult man, being okay with who I am, being excited to be alive, enjoying the things that bring me joy, not feeling like I'm doing them just to build something, not feeling like I'm doing them just to satisfy the addiction of posting to YouTube. Feeling like I'm in a place where I'm legitimately looking forward to things in the future. And if you've been in a cloud of melancholy, that's a thing that's hard to remember what that feels like when you're in it, where you're actually enjoying looking forward. And the thought I just had was I was worried that I'm saying too much, because that's going to annoy me so much when I go to watch this again. That's going to drive me nuts. But that will be my evidence to you that I am indeed free-flowing and less worried about what I'm saying, and more trying to keep the thought process in a way that's aligning towards things that I care about, that are hard to package into edited videos. I feel like a delivery man could come with some of the stuff that I've been ordering for my upcoming sailing trip at any moment. And if they do, that's totally okay. So the reason why I'm getting emotional when I say that I'm doing well is that is a feeling that I long for when I don't have it. And when I have it, I'm just so thrilled. And I'm grateful to say that a majority of the time, I would like to think that that's where most of my days are lived, where I'm excited to be awake, excited to go about my day, excited to make things, excited about the next ideas. And I'm okay with the seasons of times where you're not feeling that, because then that makes you try to figure out what dials of my life do I need to change and rotate so that way I do feel that way eventually. And the feeling that I've had this past week is twofold, especially as I look at what's coming next for the channel, because I felt bad in the past 2 weeks that I'm not doing enough for uploading on the channel. So this is the great contradiction. When I'm feeling better and more alive, that gives me more energy to spend on making things. And the second I've got energy to make new ideas and to make new videos, that's when I realize, oh, if I have this energy, how come I'm not using it good enough to do more? So even while I'm doing well, I'm face to face with a feeling again of I'm not doing enough. And I look at my upload history on my channel and I'm like, man, I haven't really been posting that much. Man, I haven't really been doing that well at the content thing, at the stories that I want to get out there, at the things that are sitting on my hard drive that I need to finish to post. And I'm just feeling some of that tension start to grind at my self-worth and how I talk to myself. And that's why I want to have this conversation. If you've looked at other people who are doing well in the past 6 months, past year and a half, with resentment of how are they doing that? How did someone make it through such a hard season that so many of us are still trying to process and work out? And how did people make it through that and then be better for it? How is that possible? And certainly I've felt those feelings of comparison come in where I look at other people who are doing really well in the past year and a half and I'm just jealous. I'm like, man, I want to be doing that well. So coming out of a summer where I feel I'm finally probably doing doing well in the version that I was lusting after in other people, it's fascinating to me how quickly alongside that I'm able to like piggyback myself to go, yeah, but you're not doing enough. Even when you're doing well, you aren't good enough. And I just think that is just so devastating. Like, is it not enough that I try my best in that given time with what I have available? And I don't have to like torment myself down to oblivion to grind out more finished things? Isn't that enough? Isn't just being enough? But then where's the next paycheck going to come from? Where's the next meal going to, how am I going to pay for things? And so there's the necessities of life that drive me forward to survive as a human and to pay for things, to pay for luxuries. But those are the thoughts I'm reflecting on now as I go into the fall, as already my walls are starting to go up, as I'm nervous for how harsh I'm going to be on myself in the coming winter months over not doing enough. And I would hate to take a moment where I feel I'm doing so well and then just beat it down because I wasn't productive enough. That would be sad. But maybe also that is the suffering that I bring onto myself, that every fall I need to battle, and I need to win over, and I need to conquer, and I need to practice good self-talk. Maybe that's that. And maybe a counselor would help me walk through that better in therapy. That would probably be a smart idea. I wish for you that if you as well feel that you aren't doing enough, I would hope you could find a place and to be in community with people that said you're okay. Just making it through the last seasons is enough. And maybe you know on the inner conversations that you've had with yourself that, well, actually, I've been coping in some ways that are pretty not great. Ask for help. The coping doesn't define who we need to be going forward, and acknowledging the coping is a really helpful way to almost thank the coping for what it's doing. It's enabling you to get by, and if you keep doing it, it's gonna not work out well for you. But it served its purpose, and once you became aware, maybe that's time to separate some space from it. I don't know. I didn't mean to turn this into a self-help seminar on you. I would love to wrap up this by reflecting on what I have coming up next, because I'm excited about it. I'm energized. I have ideas. And I'm nervous that in my excitement, I will overload my ability to do them well, and then I'm going to fail. And for me, the fear of failure is a very helpful compass towards things that I care about, and it's so worth doing things that you care about. It's so worth it. So what do I care about, and what have I been doing? I intended for most of this summer, especially going into August, I was going to get into the electric motorcycle build. That was the next project that I was doing a deep dive ADHD research sessions on, where I just went full into the deep end. And the research stage of that project has been complete. I feel that I know enough to get started. I have all the main parts, and I was going to start that this summer. And I actually postponed the starting of it because when I get into it, I want to go all in. So it's coming, but I might have preemptively announced it, and that's on me for doing that. So it's coming. What ended up happening this summer? So my son was born in June. That was wildly exciting. I was thrilled with the container modifications I did on my container. In the video about that, I'm so pumped on how many people found it and enjoyed it. And I do have more modifications that we're going to do to the container and get it ready for more off-grid shop life. So that's all coming. I'm excited about those things. The electric motorcycle and the container, those modification videos are going to continue to be sprinkled out. The motorcycle will most likely start. Maybe it's going to take me a while to start it. I don't actually know which month I'm going to start, but once I do, I'm going to try to do a big push on it and get most of it done. I don't want to miss the window of this electric motorcycle interest window that I think is pretty pertinent right now. I think there's not many people doing custom builds. There's a few, but not many. And I want to be one of the first in that area. Maybe not first, but you know what I mean. So that stuff is postponed technically. And that's because in around the end of July, some opportunities came up to do some more work with my production company. And for those that have been following with my production company, the amount of work that I do with it ebbs and flows based off how many of my personal projects I'm doing. So given a different year, some years I'm doing more production work for clients and some years I'm doing less. And client work for me is making them videos. Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less. Into this summer, I had some opportunities to do more client work that was aligned with what I find energizing, and that paid money. And I like making money, and running the YouTube channel I'm not very great at from a money-making perspective. So I will happily take on a well-fitting, good paying project that fits what I'm interested in, especially if there's opportunities to stretch myself. So we started doing some of that in July, and then into August, the opportunity came up with one of our previous clients, Adamus, where the Canon R5 was releasing firmware to do 8K ProRes RAW. And they asked me, hey, do you have a story that you want to tell that you can make a behind the scenes video from? So that became basically my big August project. And there's a lot of work that goes into producing something like that to make it seem, to basically get 2 or 3 days on the calendar where you can get really talented people together to film something. And that took up a lot of my mental energy in August, and I'm really thrilled with what we shot, and I'm going to bring that content to my channel. I wanted to bring some of it here already, which I haven't. Some of it's posted on the Adamus channel already, so I encourage you, if you're interested in that, or if that seems stimulating to whatever you're curious about, I would encourage you to go see it, because that's what my production work can look like, especially as a storyteller. And many of you who've been following me know that I've been hungry to do more storytelling work, not just about my personal stories, but about other people. And I've had a hard time finding something. And there's some projects I didn't finish from last year that have been on my mind that maybe some of you will remember. When the A7S III came out, I shot a piece. I shot a lot of footage in a couple days that we filmed the behind the scenes from that was uploaded about my first experience filming with the A7S III, and can it help me get out of my filmmaking rut. And the footage that we shot from that was never finished. I never finished it. And certainly that weighs on me because it was personal, and the story that I was writing for it is personal. It's about the interactions with the death of my grandfather last year and how I feel as a maker who's trying to navigate life as a maker, and how I feel never having filmed my Opa build anything, and how that was like one of my first goals that I ever had with a camera was to eventually do that, and how I failed. So there's deeply personal themes that I want to integrate into some of that footage and use me filming other people as the like visuals. And it's there on my hard drive, and a lot of it's written, but I haven't completed it, and that weighs on me in a pretty big way, actually. And there hasn't been a month that has gone by this year where I haven't thought, maybe this month I'll finish it. So I don't venture to guess at when I will, but I do know I need to decide a time and just finish it. But I'm putting a piece of me into that in a way that I haven't normally, and so it feels hard. And when you're just trying to run a production company that makes money, it doesn't always feel worthwhile to spend time like doing a personal project at length. So that is coming eventually. But you do know that I've been wrestling with storytelling and trying to find something to sink my teeth into. And this Adamus project with the Ninja 5 Plus 8K ProRes RAW was a great opportunity for me to actually do some high quality storytelling in a short format and make a behind the scenes video that the client would be happy with, and try to walk away with a project that as a whole I'm really proud of. And that's what we did. I'm really proud of it. We made a piece about my new friend Judy. She's a mountain biker from Vancouver that runs an organization called Color the Trails. And I think what she does is so rad, inviting people into the outdoors, trying to get more representation, acknowledging that the diversity is already here, but actually making space for those people to find other people like themselves to go do things like this. And especially as someone who's benefited from other people inviting me into spaces, I'm so excited about this concept of invitation. That piece I'm going to bring to my channel, and I'm going to bring some behind the scenes videos to it. I intended to do that this week. It's probably not going to happen, and that's one of the reasons why I want to sit down and have this conversation. I'll probably bring that to the channel about 2 weeks from now. You can go see it already. I'll make some modified behind the scenes videos for my channel and stuff as well around that. If you're still here with me, I appreciate you. What else is coming is, after the Adamus stories, I did a bike packing experience this week, which will probably come to the channel really quickly here, maybe in the next 7 days, where I went solo camping for the first time off a bike. There's a bunch of other things that I have been up to, and so many of them are like percolating right at the edge of being finished. So October is going to be a big month, and I've been like on this fence of stress where it's like, I know that I could ride this stress rocket, this massively powerful rocket of stress and self-loathing, to complete things and get them done. And that's sometimes what it feels like it takes as someone with ADHD to like actually stay focused and complete things that I care about. It feels like I have to, it feels like a lot has to be at stake in order to engage those aspects of who I am, to complete things that require focused, continuous attention. And part of me is wrestling where it's like, I wish maybe that I had stressed myself out more so I'd gotten more things done, but then I've been reluctant to do that because I know where that brings me sometimes, which is burnout. So I don't want to do that. But then I've been in this weird middle place of like being really happy, enjoying my relaxation, my playtime, my biking, my personal time, my family time. I've been really happy with those things. But then as a result, I have to acknowledge that certain things just haven't been getting completed. So I'm like in this weird in-between of like enjoying my life, but also knowing that I'm not finishing certain things that are ending up on the channel. And that's an interesting place to be in. I don't really know what to do about that. I don't think that perfect balance exists. I think the pursuit of it is really helpful, but I do think I'm going to have to shift gears into a slightly stressed state to complete some things. But I'm wanting to go into that with a guarded spirit of self, of who I am. I want to protect the version of me right now that is okay with just existing. Because I like that version of me that's like not so hard on myself. And very rarely am I concerned about what other people are feeling about me or thinking about me. Maybe that's a gift or a strength of mine. I don't reflect on that very often, sometimes to my own detriment. But what I do reflect on is what I feel about myself. And I do that often. And sometimes those conversations are so harsh with myself that I don't even know that I'm doing it. And I speak to myself, I almost sound like I have borderline personality, something or other, or schizophrenia. No, there's one self. Don't worry, I don't have maybe a therapist would help me unpack something that is news to me. But to my knowledge, at this point, I don't have personality disorder or schizophrenia or anything like that. When I talk to myself, I speak in a way that's harsher than I would ever speak to any other person that I care about in my life. And that's not great. It's not a fun place to be. And when I'm doing really well, I'm nervous. I'm nervous sometimes because it's like, wow, if you're doing this well, you should be doing more, shouldn't you? Like, if you are doing well, shouldn't you be producing more? And that drive to build things starts bubbling up in a way where it can like just so quickly take over everything. Appreciate you. I don't know how long I've talked here, probably an absurd amount of time, 33 minutes. I'm gonna wrap things up there. I'm going sailing. We've got our trips coming up with the Adventure Film Academy. These are some of my favorite times of the year where I get to take people out on adventures to go sailing. And we're gonna leave and do that now, basically in a day or so. And I'm so thrilled for that. And when I come back from those sailing trips, you better believe there's so much awesome stuff coming to the channel. That's gonna be it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, life's better when you make stuff. I should have asked some of you a question. I should have done that out of the gate. I should have asked a question in the comments. If you're the kind of person that watched a video or listened to a video like this all the way through, I'd love to hear how you're doing down in the comments. If you're wrestling with feeling like you're not doing enough and how you self-talk your way through that. The end.